Welcome back to Coinage Era. Today we're looking at the UK 1 penny from 1996A, small coin with a big connection to British history. The United Kingdom 1 penny 1996 may appear at first glance to be one of the simplest and most common coins ever produced by the Royal Mint. Yet, when we peel back the layers of its design, symbolism, historical roots, and the era in which it circulated, this small copper-plated steel coin transforms into a powerful storyteller of British identity, monarchy, and parliamentary heritage spanning centuries. The penny itself is one of the oldest denominations in British history, with roots stretching back more than 1,000 years to the Anglo-Saxon period, when early silver pennies were struck under kings such as Uffa of Mercia in the 8th century, establishing the penny as the backbone of England's monetary system for generations to come. Over time, the penny evolved through medieval hammered coinage, Tudor reforms, the Industrial Revolution, and eventually into the modern decimal system introduced in 1971, a transformation that reshaped British currency forever. By the time the 1996 1 penny was minted, Britain had already undergone dramatic political, social, and economic changes, and this coin quietly reflected that modern yet tradition-anchored identity. The 1996 penny is composed of copper-plated steel, a material change introduced in 1992 to reduce costs as copper prices rose, symbolizing how even ancient institutions like the Royal Mint must adapt to economic realities while preserving tradition. Measuring 20.3 millimeters in diameter and weighing 3.56 grams, the coin fits perfectly into everyday British life, yet its imagery carries centuries of meaning. On the obverse appears the third definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Raphael Muckloff, depicting the Queen wearing the George IV state diadem, a symbol of continuity, monarchy, and constitutional stability. This portrait was used from 1985 to 1997, placing the 1996 penny firmly within a mature phase of Elizabeth II's reign, a time when she was not only the longest-serving monarch in British history at that point, but also a global symbol of dignity and endurance in a rapidly changing world. The Queen's calm, composed expression on the coin reflects the monarchy's role during the 1990s, steady, traditional, yet adapting to the pressures of modern media, political debate, and public scrutiny. Surrounding her portrait is the Latin inscription, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia, Regina Fid Def, translating to Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen Defender of the Faith, a phrase deeply rooted in centuries-old royal tradition that links modern Britain directly to medieval monarchy and the divine, legitimacy once claimed by kings and queens. The obverse of the 1996 UK 1 penny features the third definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Raphael Muckloff, a portrait that perfectly captures the dignity, authority, and continuity of Britain's longest-reigning monarch. Introduced in 1985 and used until 1997, this portrait shows the Queen wearing the George IV state diadem, symbolizing royal tradition, constitutional monarchy, and national stability. The mid-1990s were a significant period in Elizabeth II's reign. Britain was modernizing rapidly. Media scrutiny of the monarchy was increasing, and the Queen herself had already witnessed decades of global change, from post-war recovery to the dawn of the digital age. Yet her calm and timeless image on the coin reassured the public that the monarchy remained a steady presence. The Latin inscription surrounding her portrait, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia, Regina Fid Def, connects modern Britain directly to medieval royal authority, reinforcing centuries-old tradition in a modern world. The 1996 penny thus represents a mature and reflective phase of the Queen's reign, making it historically significant as one of the last pennies to carry this specific portrait before a new, artistic era began in 1998. Turning the coin over reveals the crowned portcullis, one of the most symbolically powerful designs ever used on British coinage, and a central element in understanding the deeper meaning of the 1996 penny. The portcullis, originally a heavy iron gate used to defend medieval castles, became a lasting symbol of authority, security, and controlled power. Its association with British politics dates back to the Tudor dynasty, especially King Henry VII, who adopted the portcullis as his personal badge to represent strength and legitimacy after the Wars of the Roses. Over time, this symbol became linked with the Palace of Westminster and the House of Commons, turning it into an emblem of British parliamentary democracy. By placing the crowned portcullis on the penny, the Royal Mint made a powerful statement. Even the smallest unit of currency connects the everyday citizen to the heart of national governance. In 1996, as Britain debated its future role in Europe, economic reform, and political change, this symbol quietly reinforced the idea that parliamentary tradition and constitutional authority remained the foundation of the nation. By the time the UK 1 penny 1996 entered circulation, Britain was already experiencing a quiet but important economic shift that directly influenced the very metal from which this coin was made, revealing how even the smallest denomination reflects national financial realities. Originally, British pennies were struck in bronze, a copper-rich alloy that had been used for generations and gave older pennies their warm, reddish tone and satisfying weight. However, by the late 20th century, rising global copper prices made bronze coinage increasingly expensive to produce, forcing the Royal Mint to reconsider traditional materials. In 1992, a major decision was made. The penny would now be struck in copper-plated steel, significantly reducing production costs while maintaining the familiar appearance that the public trusted. The 1996 penny fully belongs to this new material era, symbolizing a balance between economic efficiency and visual tradition. Although the change was subtle to the eye, it marked a fundamental shift. Older bronze pennies were non-magnetic, while newer steel core pennies could be attracted by magnets, a detail that quietly separates generations of British coinage. This transformation mirrors the broader economic landscape of 1990s Britain, a time focused on cost efficiency, modernization, and adaptation to global markets. The coin's lighter feel and harder sound when dropped reflect a nation adjusting to new realities without abandoning its historical identity. While many people use the 1996 penny without a second thought, collectors today recognize it as a product of a transitional era, where ancient denominations met modern economics, proving that even the most ordinary coin is shaped by invisible forces such as inflation, material scarcity, and fiscal policy, all quietly embedded within its metallic core. The year 1996 stands as a fascinating snapshot in modern British history, and the UK 1 penny, 1996, quietly circulated through a society standing on the edge of major transformation, making this small coin a silent witness to a changing nation. Britain in the mid-1990s was emerging from the economic difficulties of the early part of the decade and gradually moving toward a renewed sense of cultural confidence that would soon be labeled Cool Britannia, traditional. Institutions such as the monarchy and parliament continued to anchor national identity, yet youth culture, music, fashion, and media were rapidly evolving, with Britpop bands dominating the charts and British film and television gaining renewed global attention. In this environment, the penny remained a symbol of stability and familiarity, passed from hand to hand in corner shops, school canteens, bus fares, newsagents, and local markets, forming part of daily routines that defined ordinary life. As the UK 1 penny 1996 slowly fades from active circulation in modern Britain, its role has quietly shifted from everyday money to historical artifact, transforming the way collectors, historians, and ordinary people perceive its value. In strict monetary terms, the 1996 penny is not rare, having been minted in vast numbers and widely circulated, meaning its market value today usually remains close to face value unless found in exceptional, uncirculated condition, mint sets, or with unusual errors. However, focusing solely on price misses the deeper significance of this coin because its true worth lies in the legacy it represents rather than the numbers attached to it. For collectors, the 1996 penny marks an important point. Within the broader narrative of British coinage, it belongs to the copper-plated steel era introduced for economic efficiency. It carries the final years of the Raphael Mechlove portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, and it preserves the crowned portcullis design that would later be replaced as coinage themes evolved. For future generations, this penny will symbolize a time when physical cash still played a central role in daily life, before digital payments, contactless cards, and mobile wallets began to dominate everyday transactions. As inflation continues to erode the purchasing power of small denominations, and discussions grow about the long-term necessity of the penny itself, coins like the 1996 issue become time capsules, capturing an era when even the smallest unit of currency mattered. Emotionally, the penny holds personal memories, childhood collections, first purchases, charity donations, and the familiar sound of coins in a pocket, making it a deeply human object despite its modest value. From a historical perspective, the coin connects centuries of British monetary tradition, from Anglo-Saxon silver pennies to modern steel core issues, proving the extraordinary continuity of a denomination that survived monarchs, wars, reforms, and revolutions. The crown portcullis reminds us of parliamentary authority. The Queen's portrait reflects constitutional monarchy, and the coin's material tells a story of economic adaptation, all compressed into a single everyday object. Long after the UK 1 penny, 1996 has lost its everyday purchasing power and slipped quietly out of routine use. Its meaning continues to grow, proving that significance is not measured by spending ability, but by the stories an object survives to tell. In an age where money is increasingly invisible, reduced to numbers on screens, taps on phones, and digital ledgers, this humble penny stands as a physical reminder of a time when value could be held, counted, and felt. Its worn surface, softened edges, and faded shine speak not of neglect, but of participation in countless human moments, small purchases, acts of kindness, childhood savings, and ordinary exchanges that together form the rhythm of daily life. The crowned portcullis still guards the ideals of parliamentary democracy, even when the coin no longer guards real economic value, while the portrait of Queen Elizabeth too preserves a chapter of monarchy defined by endurance rather than spectacle. For future collectors and historians, the 1996 penny will represent a closing chapter in the story of small change, a denomination approaching obsolescence yet rich in cultural memory. It teaches a quiet but powerful lesson. Progress does not erase the past. It builds upon it. As Britain moves further into a cashless future, coins like this become anchors to human experience, reminding us that history once passed through human hands, not algorithms. In the end, the UK 1 penny 1996 fulfills its greatest role not as currency, but as a storyteller carrying forward the legacy of a nation, the continuity of its institutions, and the everyday lives of its people. And with this final reflection, the journey of this small coin comes to rest, not forgotten but preserved in memory, proving once more that even the smallest piece of metal can hold the weight of time itself. As the journey of the UK 1 penny 1996 reaches its end, we are reminded that history does not always announce itself with gold, rarity, or extraordinary value, but often hides quietly within the most ordinary objects of everyday life. This modest copper-plated steel coin, once passed casually across shop counters, dropped into charity boxes, or forgotten at the bottom of pockets, now stands as a silent witness to an entire era of British society, standing on the threshold of a new century. It carries within it the echoes of Anglo-Saxon silver pennies, the authority of Tudor symbolism through the crowned portcullis, the stability of parliamentary democracy, and the calm continuity of Queen Elizabeth II during a time of cultural change and modernization. The 1996 penny reflects a Britain that respected its past while preparing for its future, a nation adapting to economic realities, technological progress, and shifting social values without severing its historical roots. As physical cash gradually gives way to digital transactions and small denominations lose their practical power, Coins like this become bridges between generations, reminding us how people once interacted with money, value, and history in their daily lives. For collectors, it serves as a tangible link to the final years of a specific artistic and material phase in British coinage. For historians, it captures a moment of transition. And for everyday people, it preserves memories of a simpler financial world. In closing, the UK 1 penny, 1996, proves the central philosophy of coinage era, that every coin, no matter how common, carries a story worth telling, and that true value is found not only in rarity or price, but in the legacy, culture, and human experiences engraved within metal. This is not just the end of a coin's story, but a reminder that history lives in our hands, waiting to be noticed.